On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, everybody. I am Kate Magdziuk. You could follow me on Twitter at FFBallblast. As always, I am joined by Marcus Mosher. You could follow him on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Give the show a follow on Twitter at Locked On Dynasty. Be sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to your Dynasty podcasts. Leave us those 5-star reviews. It helps us more than you can ever remember. If you have made a trade that was inspired by the show, please drop it in the comments. Let us know, because all of these reviews mean a lot to us. It helps others find the show. And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, baby. We're YouTubing it up, and we're very excited about it. Marcus, happy Monday. How was your week 7? This year is flying by, dude.
It is flying by. It was quite a slate of games for us in week 7, wasn't it? It was, I don't know. It was a lot of fun. But Kate, I want to talk about some of the action that we had this week, especially at the quarterback position. We should probably start with Patrick Mahomes, right?
Woof. Yeah, we should start with Patrick Mahomes. Are you worried at all? Like, let's just start with that, because Patrick Mahomes, leading into halftime, they were at a 24-point deficit, which is the first time that they had ever had a 24-point deficit in the first half of a game under Patrick Mahomes as quarterback. They definitely struggled in this one. We didn't even see Tyreek Hill with like a target until just before half, which ended up being a nullified catch. It was just a complete disaster. All of that money that they invested in the offensive line, it looks for naught at this point, because there was just not a moment where he wasn't under pressure.
I am starting to get a little bit worried about this Chiefs offense. It just seems like a team that is in disarray right now. We're used to Patrick Mahomes routinely throwing 3 touchdowns with no interceptions and 300 yards. And it's been a bit of a struggle this year, Kate. Like in the last 3 games, he has 5 interceptions and 2 passing touchdowns. He has multiple fumbles. Obviously, I'm not panicking on Patrick Mahomes. He's going to figure it out. But if you're in a Superflex league and you traded a bunch for Patrick Mahomes this offseason, you've got to be a little frustrated right now, because this offense just is not working.
Yeah, and this isn't the time to sell Patrick Mahomes in your leagues. Do not trade him away, because you are trading him probably at the lowest that you're ever going to trade Patrick Mahomes away for. This is the time to buy, because great quarterbacks, they figure it out. We've seen all of the great quarterbacks have lulls. It's like hard to even come up with something that like tangible to point to for this offense that I think isn't working, because it just all seems the chemistry just seems totally off. So I do think they have a great coach, great quarterback. They have great weapons. They're going to figure it out. But this is probably the best buy window you're going to have for Patrick Mahomes in his career.
Yeah. There's another quarterback that I really do want to mention, and it's Carson Wentz. Now, I know that he tried to throw the ball to like the 49ers like 4 different times last night. He had the ugly,
he did his best.
The ugly /fumbles interception at the red zone. However, I'm going to excuse him a little bit considering the conditions, right? Like, it was just a slop fest. Kate, did you know that this was the 4th straight week in which Carson Wentz had at least 2 passing touchdowns and no interceptions? He had 3 touchdowns on Sunday night. He's pretty efficient. It's 4 straight games with a passer rating of over 106, which we don't care about in fantasy, but I think
it's an indication of solid. It's an indication of solid quarterback play, which is, that it usually eventually will translate to fantasy points. And not to mention Carson Wentz, he's been using those wheels he's got on the butt. Like, that was what I feel like gave Carson Wentz this little edge. He was never a Jalen Hurts type rusher, but his ability to take off with his legs always gave him an upside that you might not have seen anywhere else. They said it all night, and I feel like they jinxed him hard. The leap that Carson Wentz took from the 2020 season up to now 2021, he's taken the best leap out of any quarterback. Like the gap in passer rating between last year and this year, it's the largest gap in a good way among any single quarterback in the NFL right now. He looks great. How about Tua Tagovailoa? Because we saw a really, this was the best outing I think we've ever seen from Tua, right? Like 4 passing touchdowns in a day. Are you buying the hype? Because now we're hearing all these trade talks, rumors that Deshaun Watson, he's going to be on the move. We've heard it for months, really, but those talks seem to be intensifying.
The Tua thing is fascinating because, man, he had an interception yesterday that was awful, just in the red zone. Just doesn't need to throw the ball, was not accurate. However, we got to realize that this guy has not started and finished a lot of games. I believe he only has, I'm looking at it now, he has 12 games in which he has started and finished in his NFL career.
Essentially a rookie.
Yeah, and that's not a lot. And we saw over the last 2 weeks, Kate, 620 passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns, added in another 50 yards in the ground. Like, there's clearly talent here. And there's a reason why a lot of people were, thinking he was the best quarterback in that last year's draft class, and why we were saying tank for Tua for a whole year. I don't know if Miami's the situation, right? Like, I think he's going to need to go elsewhere with a better offensive line, and maybe he needs to sit a year and, kind of just regather himself. But I do think he's talented. I got one more that we need to mention. One more. Sam Darnold.
Whoops.
Yeah, so Sam Darnold started off the season really, really well. He had 5 rushing touchdowns in the first 4 games of the season. Since
we knew the regression was coming. We knew it.
You knew the regression was coming. The last 3 weeks, Kate, 2 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's completing only 52% of his passes, no rushing touchdowns, 4.8 yards per attempt. He even got benched yesterday in the Panthers game. Is this the kind of the beginning of the end of Sam Darnold in Carolina?
I think it said something, because he didn't just get benched at this point in the game. Like, he got benched at a point in the game where this was still a doable game. Like,
it was 15-13, right?
15-3.
15-3.
They could have come back pretty easily in this one. Like, just 1 touchdown, and apparently they didn't see the upside with Sam Darnold under center. He looks absolutely atrocious. Like, him and Carson Wentz are like competing for just like ugliest plays of the day yesterday. I'm officially worried about Sam Darnold. Obviously, they picked up his 5th-year option. Great. I just don't. I think this was a Hail Mary on behalf of the Carolina Panthers. But let's remember that this is an offense that made Teddy Bridgewater look like a playmaker. I just don't think Sam Darnold's decision making is where it needs to be at this point in his career. And I think the Panthers are finally realizing that. If I can sell Sam Darnold for anything in my leagues, in my dynasty leagues, I am shipping him off for literally anything I can get.
I agree. I'm a big Sam Darnold supporter. I've always been, but even I have to admit
I'm so sorry.
I think it's over. All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you guys about DirecTV. DirecTV Stream brings you live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, which means you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So stop waiting and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That is directtv.com. All right, Kate, we've got some running backs that we need to talk about outside of the usual suspects, the Derrick Henrys, the Jonathan Taylors, who all did basically exactly what you were hoping for. Damian Harris yesterday for the Patriots, 14 carries for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. He didn't do much in the passing game, 2 for 7. But I just wanted to say he is on pace for 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns this season, back-to-back games with 100 rushing yards. Are you buying Damian Harris being a legitimate high-end RB2?
So I will say Damian Harris, if you've never listened to the Ball Blast podcast, he was my start of the week over on the Ball Blast podcast because I loved this matchup. I've always been a big fan of Damian Harris, but I've been frustrated regarding his upside just because of the fact that he's not heavily utilized as a receiver, and I think that that stings. He is on pace for a career high 25 targets. Not very good, but I mean he's still absolutely crushing it. I think this Patriots offense is still very conducive to the run. I still think that I wouldn't be surprised if Damian Harris ends up with 8 games of 100 plus rushing yards by the end of the season. I still worry about the upside from a PPR standpoint, just given the fact that I think he needs to be scoring double touchdowns just about every other week in order to keep up with his lack of PPR and receiving upside. But I love Damian Harris. I can't buy into the upside on a week to week basis though.
Yeah, he probably is a spot start at this point. But, I mean, when he does play and you get him in a nice matchup, he's going to give you some really nice numbers. All right, a different guy I want to talk about, Deandre Swift. Yesterday, 13 carries for 48 yards, no touchdowns. However, 8 receptions for 96 yards in a score. Over the last 3 weeks, Kate, he has 192 receiving yards and 19 receptions. I mean, he is legitimately on pace this year for 600 rushing yards and 1,000 receiving yards, which is just incredible. But how many running backs do you want over DeAndre Swift long term now? Because I don't think it's many. With basically gonna catch 100 passes and 1,000 yards and 5 or 6 touchdowns.
I do think we need to differentiate. This is my sort of point with him, and I'm curious as to how you think. I don't think this is going to be sustainable on a year-to-year basis. DeAndre Swift is essentially functioning as his team's wide receiver one at this point because they don't have a wide receiver one. They're just not. They don't have the playmakers. Their entire receiving core has been decimated by injury, and it was barren to begin with. Mm-hmm. I don't think that this is going to continue. I don't think this is like a sustainable model for producing offense that they're going with. Like, you cannot shovel the ball to DeAndre Swift. Like, great for fantasy right now. Fantastic. But I don't think that this is a sustainable long-term plan for an offense if you really want to see sustainable production. I love DeAndre Swift, but I don't think I don't think we're going to see this next year. Do you?
No, but the hope is that the rushing production goes up to help outweigh some of the drop in receiving stuff. Because, yeah, you're right. He's just not going to average basically, 8 to 9 targets a game. That's just not going to happen. But, okay, he doesn't have a game with over 14 carries yet this season. And the yards per attempt are not good. It's 3.4. That's a pretty massive decrease from what we saw last year. But if it can get, kind of normalize and get to 4.2, 4.3, and he can score a few more rushing touchdowns, he only has 3 this year. I think that's going to help him. I still think he's a top 6, top 7 dynasty running back, because when you get that many touches in the passing game, how could you not be?
What do you think about the fact that Jamal Williams is averaging 4.4 yards per carry? He's looked much more efficient in the ground game portion.
It's fine.
What do you make
I think
of that?
he's a veteran running back, right? He knows that scheme well. He knows Anthony Lynn. It's not all that surprising to me, because I think when DeAndre Swift touches the ball, he's not getting that many carries that he's trying to make a home run, right? He knows this offense just isn't going to be sustainable, on 12 to 14 play drives. So I think he's being a little too aggressive right now. I think he'll settle down a little bit, and we'll see him approach Jamal Williams' yards per carry sooner rather than later.
Okay.
Fair enough?
Right. That's fair enough.
All right. Can I give you another running back that caught my eye again? Khalil Herbert. 18 carries for 100 yards against Tampa Bay, Kate. Against Tampa Bay. When's the last time have we seen a running back rush for 100 yards against Tampa Bay? Also added in 5 catches for 33 yards in the passing game. Kate, I think even when David Montgomery returns, this is going to have to be a timeshare, right? Because Khalil Herbert is #good.
He is hashtag good. He's had at least 18 carries in each of the last 3 games. I mean, this production is literally everything you'd want, especially against the Tampa Bay Bucks. I, like a fool, like in any league where I had a startable option ahead of Khalil Herbert, I benched Khalil Herbert because this has just been an offense or a defensive matchup to completely avoid for the running back position. But I do think there's going to be a lot of carries to go around because it seems like the best way to approach, an offensive game plan for this team is to keep the ball out of Justin Fields' hand, which I didn't think I saw coming, literally at all. So I think in order to keep possession of the ball, they're going to have to run, and I think they're going to need to do that. With David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert in tow. I mean, we saw nice reports this week from the local beat reporters that Khalil Herbert is making his way up the depth chart. It's definitely going to be a timeshare moving forward.
One more running back that I want to mention, this one in a negative connotation. Antonio Gibson. Yesterday, 14 for 51 on the ground. He saw just 2 targets, caught both of them for 5 yards. Kate, over the last 4 games, he has just 9 targets and 29 receiving yards. Like, it's awfully hard to be a RB1 when you get that little volume in the passing game, and you're only averaging 14 carries per game in the run game. So what do we do with Antonio Gibson?
I don't know what you do with Antonio Gibson right now. Like he had 1 week as a big receiver. Back in week 3, had 1 catch for 73 yards. It was like this screen pass that he took to the house. So I feel like that's like that was the one sign of life we really saw from him as a receiver. And even on that day, only saw 2 targets. I feel like it's definitely not great. I've been worried about what we'd see. It still seems like whenever they're, in a 2-minute drill kind of situation, it's JD McKissick in there. It is not Antonio Gibson. And I find that alarming. Maybe we're still seeing some of that adjustment period for Antonio Gibson as he makes that transition from a wide receiver to a running back. But you have to be concerned, at least for this season. And I think especially given that he's banged up. We saw him, limit all this week with a shin injury. He's got a broken bone in there. I worry that at least for this season, if I'm in a contending roster, I'm looking to, move on from Antonio Gibson and hopefully I can offset some of that loss in value just due to the fact that he's injured. Because I worry it's going to be one hit for him and he's going to be in dire straits here.
All right, let me ask you this then. If you are a contending team, would you trade Antonio Gibson for Darrell Henderson?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's kind of surprising considering we have no idea what that backfield is going to look like next year with the Rams, right? With Cam Akers coming back, with Darrell Henderson's contract stuff. So very, very interesting. All right, let's take one more break, and then we're going to come back and talk about the wide receivers and tight ends. But I want to tell you guys about Get Upside. Our listeners are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every single time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and use promo code Touchdown and get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. You can cash out at any time using your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code Touchdown to get up to 50 cents per gallon cash back on your first tank. That's promo code Touchdown. Also want to tell you guys about Built Bar. You know Built Bar. It's the best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. It's real chocolate with amazing flavors. It's just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK15 and you will get 15% off your next box at BuiltBar.com. All right, Kate, we got to talk about the biggest story in football right now, the thing that everybody's talking about on Monday morning on their timelines. This receiver was incredible on Sunday, just absolutely dominated his matchup. Dante Pettis, 5 for 39 and a touchdown on top of 1 pass for 16 yards. What did you think of Dante Pettis' performance?
I was very proud of you. That was one of your
Thank
candidates
you.
this week on
Thank you.
commotion. Look, this is a product of them needing to throw the ball to literally anybody but Dante Pettis. He's a guy that we have seen go on a productive streak once in his career. If you guys can remember back that far,
Yeah.
we all fell for it once. Don't fall for it again. Don't do this again. Just enjoy the production while you have it. But as soon as there are some bodies back on that field who aren't injured, I will say aloha.
We're spending way
A
too much
goodbye way.
time on Dante Pettis, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I've got an actual question to you, Kate, about Jamar Chase. Yesterday,
my
8
goodness.
for 201 and a touchdown. Do you realize he is on pace for 1,800 yards and like 15 touchdowns this year?
He's absolutely incredible. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this incredible
Well,
performance other than he's the guy we knew he was.
Yes, I got a question for you. Are you ready? At what point do we start considering Jamar Chase for the 101? Not wide receiver 101.
Oof. Whew.
He's only 21 years old. He's paired with a quarterback that absolutely loves him. And anytime he's played, whether it's in college or NFL, has just looked like the best player on the field. Why not?
I can't give you a great why not.
I mean, the argument would
I
be,
think it's a reasonable. I think it's a reasonable ask. It's kind of like going back a couple of years ago when we saw Juju, who was, I believe, 22 years old at the time. He took over that Dynasty 101 spot. Super surprisingly, I think we all regret that at this point.
yeah.
But I mean, Juju was not
This
the
is different,
prospect that
though.
Jamar Chase was coming out of school. Jamar Chase, generational talent, just for real, breaking NFL records, like legitimately breaking NFL records.
Yep.
I mean, I think you got to make the case that he's top 5, right?
Well, here's the thing. If you're saying he's not the 101, you have to make a case probably for a running back. And Kate, I don't know if you've looked at the dynasty rankings for running backs lately, but like Christian McCaffrey has finished 4 games over the last 2 seasons. Like that's pretty awful. Dalvin Cook has played well, but he's been banged up this season too, right? Nick Chubb banged up. Najee Harris, right? Now his efficiency might not be there, but the touches will be. That's where we're getting to. It's like every other guy you can poke holes in, and for Jamar Chase, it's just he's a wide receiver. And do we rank wide receivers at 101? I think we might have to start considering it.
And you know what? The thing about wide receivers, I feel like we just generally see less variance year to year when it comes to the wide receiver position. And that's why I always try my general approach in dynasty leagues. Obviously, not every team shakes this way, but when I'm in a startup, I look to solidify my lineup with a bunch of stud wide receivers and wide receivers that I believe will have a lengthy career and a productive career. And I sprinkle in the running backs as I go, but I try not to build my teams around running backs because of the volatility at the position. Yep. I mean, I think this might be your case, like just due to volatility alone. Running backs on a year-to-year basis, obviously they get injured. They have shorter career spans. I mean, Jamar Chase could be a wide receiver 1 on your dynasty team, literally for the next 10 years.
One other receiver that we need to mention from Sunday, Cooper Kupp. It was he's had at least double-digit targets in every single game this season, Kate. He was 10 for 156 and 2 touchdowns on Sunday. Here is his pace stats after 7 games, which is not a small sample size. He is on pace for 136 receptions, 2,000 yards, and 23 touchdowns.
Oh my God. That's absolute. Like that sounds stupid. Like it sounds.
But when you're getting, when you're averaging 11 targets a game and you're catching 70% of them and you're averaging, 14 yards per catch, that's how you do it. I just feel like he's about as solid as it comes right now.
Yeah, I think you're gonna really I don't know how you beat that. But looking at like Dynasty ADP from October, he didn't even crack the top 4. Like you had Justin Jefferson, CD Lamb, DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams. Um, who would you rather have? Obviously, Justin Jefferson, CD Lamb, and DK Metcalf are all younger than Cooper Kupp. But is there any world where you would want Cooper Kupp over any of these guys who maybe are more question marks? Because as long as Matthew Stafford is in this offense, it seems like he's locked in as the clear-cut wide receiver 1.
All right, so say those names again. You said DK Metcalf, CD Lamb, and Justin Jefferson,
Yes.
right? That's a really, really good question. I think CD Lamb is probably the safest, but he just doesn't see the volume that the other guys get, right? Justin Jefferson is tied to a quarterback that I don't love, and DK Metcalf can be a little hit or miss and just isn't as consistent, especially if Russell Wilson happens to leave. It seems hot takey and reactionary, Kate, but Cooper Kupp is just good, and he's been good for
This isn't the first time he's done this in his career. Like we've seen him produce as a top 5 wide receiver before. Let me give you the full list of wide receivers. So I mentioned those 4 names that were ahead of him. What if I told you there were more? What if I told you there were more names?
Okay.
There's Jamar Chase, which I think we're both on board with. Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, Calvin Ridley, Stephon Diggs, DJ Moore, and then Cooper Kupp is the wide receiver 11 in Dynasty Startup ADP for the month of October. That is too low, my friends. Far too low.
Listen, I love AJ Brown as much as everybody else, but now we've got a history of him not being able to stay healthy, dealing with a knee issue. I mean, he just doesn't get the same targets that Cooper Kupp does. And yes, they're about as efficient, but he just doesn't see the touchdown potential either. So yeah, I think it's Cooper Kupp. I think he should be easily a top 5 dynasty receiver right now. And we've been saying this for a while. I think he's just so incredibly solid, and his upside is higher than almost everybody else that we mentioned. One more guy that we should mention. What about old man Zach Ertz, Kate? He came to the Cardinals on a short week, 3 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown. He also got a carry in this game, which almost led to a touchdown. Does he have like some legitimate dynasty value for the rest of the season in this Arizona offense?
Oh, I think I think he could definitely be a plug and play. This is a very very productive offense. Like if you're gonna pick a tight end flyer, I generally want the tight ends that are playing on good offenses, and that's what the Arizona Cardinals are. I think that we got so caught up in this narrative, and I had said this earlier in the offseason. I think we're abandoning the idea of Zach Ertz too quickly. He had just had a top 4 performance in fantasy football the year prior. We were 1 year removed from a top 4 fantasy football performance with Zach Ertz. He's clearly still got the juice. And let's be honest, the bar isn't very high for the tight end position because if you catch a touchdown on any given week, you're probably going to rank in the top 12 at the position. I think Zach Ertz is a fine acquisition, especially if maybe you're a team in contention and the Zach Ertz manager is looking to rebuild. I think this is a perfect buy.
I agree. I think he's going to be productive because that whole offense is productive. So why not go out and trade something late for Zach Ertz? And he's probably going to give you as good a production at the tight end position as anybody else would outside of the top 4 or 5 guys, right? Should I also mention Kyle Pitts? He's just good. He had another game of 100 yards. He's another game of 100 yards. I ranked him as my tight end 1 at the beginning of the season. Honestly, I haven't seen anything from this year that would change my mind. Like they lined him up on the outside against Xavier Howard, and he just dominated him. What a special, special talent. That is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you can download the show wherever you find your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Check us out on YouTube. You can also check us out on Twitter at Locked On Dynasty. Matt and Ryan will be back on Tuesday and Wednesday, and Kate and I will be back, I think probably Fridays now is what we're doing. Right, Kate? Does that make sense?
Yeah, get in a little bit of that Thursday night football talk. Get a little bit of that reaction.
We got a good Thursday game this week. I don't know if you looked ahead, but it's Packers-Cardinals on Thursday night football. So we're going to have a lot to talk about from that game. So make sure you're following us, follow the show. We'll see you guys next time.